Welcome to a world that offers improved glucose control, so you can enjoy a lifestyle of greater freedom and flexibility. Whether you have chosen an insulin pump because of its convenience or to reduce the severity and frequency of high and low blood sugars, your MiniMed Paradigm Veo insulin pump will be a valuable tool in helping you manage your diabetes. This training is intended to supplement the personalized training provided by your healthcare provider. If you have your pump available, we encourage you to follow along and practice the training exercises before you attend your in-person pump training. Make sure you are not connected to your pump while you practice. The Bolus Wizard calculator is a special feature on your pump that uses your BG, carb ratio, sensitivity factor, and other pump settings to calculate food and correction boluses. It keeps track of the amount of active insulin that remains in your body from previous boluses. To prevent lows that often result from overcorrecting high BGs, the Bolus Wizard calculator subtracts the active insulin from correction insulin before suggesting your total bolus amount. In addition, it keeps a record of the amount of insulin taken for each bolus, the number of grams of carb you've eaten, and the BGs that are transmitted from your meter or manually entered. This can be a very useful tool for accurate record keeping, as this information can easily be accessed on your pump or uploaded to a computer using Medtronic CareLink therapy management software. Now that you know what the Bolus Wizard calculator can do, let's program in your personal settings. Your healthcare provider will help you determine the Bolus Wizard settings that are best for you. While you can take this opportunity to practice programming and delivering boluses with the Bolus Wizard feature, do not attempt to use the Bolus Wizard feature to calculate your insulin doses until you have discussed and confirmed the settings with your healthcare provider. The pump ships to you from the factory with the Bolus Wizard feature turned off. To turn the Bolus Wizard feature on, press Act to open the main menu. Bolus is highlighted. Press Act to open the Bolus menu. Select Bolus Setup and press Act. Bolus Wizard Setup is highlighted. Press Act. Edit Settings is highlighted. Press Act. Press Act again to select Wizard. Select On and press Act. The Edit Settings screen will be displayed with Carb Units highlighted. Press Act to open the Carb Units menu. Choose the method you want to use to count your carbohydrates, in grams or exchanges. For this example, we'll select grams. Press Act. Next, you will want to enter the insulin to carbohydrate ratio you want to use. On the Edit Settings screen, Carb Ratios is highlighted. Press Act. You will see either Set Carb Ratio 1 if you selected grams, or Set Exchange Ratio 1 if you selected exchanges. In this example, the Set Carb Ratio screen is displayed. Next, enter a practice setting for the carb ratio, then press Act. You have just set your first carb ratio. Because you may need one carb ratio for breakfast and another for lunch or dinner, you can set different carb ratios for different times of the day. After you enter your first carbohydrate ratio, press Act, and you will see a screen that says Set Start Time 2. If you needed to program more than one ratio, you would set the start time of your second carb ratio on this screen. For this training, we'll use only one carb ratio. If you set a ratio value below 5 or above 50, a message will appear on the screen. This message explains that the carb ratio you entered can be used, but that it is outside the usual range. If the ratio is correct, press Act to continue. If the ratio you entered is incorrect, press Escape and then enter the correct ratio amount. Press Act to return to the Edit Settings screen. Next, you will need to program how you measure your blood glucose. Make sure that the measurement you select for your pump is the same as the measurement you use on your glucose meter. In other words, if your glucose meter is set for millimoles per liter, you will want to select millimoles per liter for your pump as well. On the Edit Settings menu, highlight BG units and press Act. Select either millimoles per liter or milligrams per deciliter and press Act again to return to the Edit Settings screen. For this example, we'll select millimoles per liter. The next factor that needs to be programmed is insulin sensitivity. Your insulin sensitivity factor is the number of points, or millimoles per liter, 1 unit of insulin lowers your blood glucose. You can program up to 8 different insulin sensitivity factors for different times of the day. For this training, we'll program only one. In the Edit Settings screen, scroll down to select Sensitivity and press Act. Enter the practice value for the insulin sensitivity setting. For this example, we will use 2.8 millimoles per liter. Press Act. If the sensitivity factor is outside the typical range of 1.1 to 5.6 millimoles per liter, or 20 to 100 milligrams per deciliter, a message will appear on the screen explaining that the sensitivity you entered can be used, but that it is outside the usual range. You can press Escape to correct the value or Act to continue and confirm the value. Because we are just setting one sensitivity for now, press Act to return to the Edit Settings screen. The next step is to program the blood glucose target range. This range is the blood glucose range or target selected by your healthcare provider. As with other functions of the Bolus Wizard feature, you may set up to 8 different target ranges. For now, we will only set one. To program this range, select BG Target on the Edit Settings screen, then press Act. Enter the lower end of your range and press Act. Now enter the high end of your range and press Act. If the BG target is outside of the usual range of 5.0 to 7.8 millimoles per liter, 90 to 140 milligrams per deciliter, then a message will appear on the screen explaining that the range is valid but is outside of the typical glucose target range. Press Escape to correct or Act to continue with values. Because you are only entering one range at this time, press Escape to return to the Edit Settings screen. The final information to enter is active insulin time. The Bolus Wizard feature uses the active insulin time to calculate the amount of active insulin that remains in your body from previous boluses, and then subtracts that amount from correction bolus insulin that you may need to give to correct a high blood sugar. Subtracting active insulin from correction insulin helps prevent lows that occur from the stacking of insulin and overtreating high blood sugars. Active insulin time is most commonly set at either 5 or 6 hours for adults. Please consult with your healthcare provider to determine the best active insulin time for you to use. To set active insulin time, select Active Insulin Time on the Edit Settings screen and press Act. You will see 6 flashing on the screen. If you wish to change the active insulin time, use the up or down arrows, set the number of hours, and press Act again. You will now see the Edit Settings screen, which will display the Bolus Wizard settings. Use the arrows to scroll through and view all of the settings in the Bolus Wizard feature. You have now completed programming the Bolus Wizard feature. Press Escape and the words Bolus Wizard Setup is complete should appear. If the programming is not complete, a missing info message will appear. Follow the instructions to fill in the missing information. Take a moment and practice programming your Bolus Wizard now. Before moving on, it is a good idea to review your Bolus Wizard settings. To get to the Review Settings screen, select Review Settings on the Bolus Wizard Setup screen and press Act. Scroll through the settings and make sure they are set correctly. When you're finished, press Escape. The Bolus Wizard feature can calculate the estimated bolus amount for a correction bolus and a food bolus separately, or it can calculate for both at the same time. You can access and use the Bolus Wizard feature either by pressing the Express Bolus button on your pump or by going to the Bolus menu and selecting Use Bolus Wizard. When you press Act, the Enter BG screen will appear. If you are not using a linked meter, use the up and down arrows to enter a blood glucose value manually and press Act. If you have your meter linked with your pump, your BG reading will automatically transmit and the BG value will flash on the pump screen. Press Act to accept this glucose reading. Next, you will see the Enter Food screen. If this is a food bolus, enter the food value you will eat and press Act. Estimate details will appear. Check to make sure the amount you entered is correct and press Act. You will now see the Set Bolus screen with the estimated bolus amount flashing. If you think you need to increase or decrease the suggested amount, the amount can be changed as long as it is still flashing on the screen. You can use the up and down arrows to adjust the bolus amount and then press Act. If you agree with the suggested bolus amount, press Act and the bolus will begin to deliver. The pump beeps or vibrates at the beginning and end of each bolus delivery. While the bolus is being delivered, the screen will show the type of bolus that is being delivered, and the amount being delivered will count up on the screen until the total bolus amount is delivered. After the bolus has completed, the pump returns to the home screen. Keep in mind that there will be times when you will need to give a bolus for food, and it may not be necessary to enter a current glucose reading. An example of this might be if you have an extra helping of food or decide to eat a dessert at the end of a meal. Giving a food bolus without a glucose reading is easy to do. Simply press Act when the pump asks you for your glucose value, and the pump will go directly to the Enter Food screen for you to enter the amount of carbohydrate or exchanges. You can practice using the Bolus Wizard feature now if you like. Please ensure that you are not connected to your pump while you practice. When you are ready, click Next to continue.